You could be making your own beer right now. It's really simple, it's really easy, and it tastes 10 times better when you make it yourself. Now's a better time than any. With the cost of living, a carton of beer is costing me 20 bucks to make, whereas if I go to the shops, it's costing me somewhere 60 to 70 bucks for 16 cans. That's ridiculous. But together today, let's brew a copper pale ale. Firstly, let's make sure you get the correct equipment. We're gonna start with at least a 20-litre pot. Girls love a boy with a big crock pot. That's if you want to make at least 10 to 12 litres of beer. I love making brew in a bag. The bag you need is just a nylon bag, and that's going to hold all your malt barley. You're going to need something to stir it with, and get yourself a hop sock. I'm telling you from experience, the hops are really hard to remove from the beer once they're in there. And a fermenter, if not the most important part. This is where your beer is going to sit for a couple of weeks while the yeast creates that beautiful alcohol. Now, the reason I think we should make a pale ale is that they're really easy. They are. If you make mistakes, there are so many flavors in pale ales that can cover up these off flavors that you typically get while making them. Go into your homebrew shop, spend some time in there, and just talk to the person that's working there. They are gonna help you, because 9 times out of 10, home brewing is also their hobby. They're gonna let you try the malt barley, they're gonna let you smell the hops, and they're gonna give you some fantastic advice. The most important thing about homebrewing is that it is really fun. It's so fun. Get into the science of it, study it, just enjoy it, and enjoy the product that you make at the end. For our pale ale, we're gonna use 3 malts. The first one's gonna be 2.2 kilos of pale malt, 300 grams of medium crystal, and then 300 grams of gladiator malt. And this is gonna round it all together and make something that is well balanced, but strong in malt character. For our mash, we're gonna start with 14 liters of water. The first thing we wanna do is get our water up to 68 degrees. This is what we call our strike temperature. If you can get your hands on one, a thermostat is an absolute game changer for home brewing as well. So once that barley's added in, that's gonna drop the temperature right down to 64 degrees. Most important right now, write everything down. If you want to recreate your beers, you need to do everything identical to the last step. Start stirring that in, break up any of what we call dough balls. I don't think I have any here that I can show you. What dough balls are, all the malt barley just sticks together, makes a little ball, and we call them dough balls. Now, while it's at this 64 degrees, you want to keep it at this 64 degrees, and you're gonna do this for an hour. This is gonna convert all your starches into soluble sugars. If you are following my recipe, you are gonna find that this beer is probably a little bit more amber. That's from me using medium crystal. If you prefer lighter colored beers, I recommend using light crystal. Experiment around, change things up. You don't have to follow my recipe perfectly for a tea. The most important part of mashing is stirring. You're about to do this for about an hour. Cancel your gym membership. You don't need that anymore. This is a nice repeated activity for you. You don't have to do it for an hour. Stir it up as much as you can, at least a little bit. Now, while you're mashing, something very important you should be doing is actually measuring out the hops you're gonna use. Today, I'm gonna be using 3 hops, 3 grains, 3 hops. The 3 hops I'll be using are Pride of Ringwood, Sabro, and Pacific Jade coming from New Zealand. I was gonna mainly use Australian hops. Actually, I take that back. I was only gonna use Australian hops and try and make an Australian pale ale. Thing is, the ones I wanted, my homebrew shop didn't have. So I'm gonna experiment. Sabro is an American hop, comes from the US of A. And then the Pacific Jade comes from New Zealand and has some fantastic fragrant flavors. There's a lot of like citrusy flavors. Pride of Ringwood is going to be my bittering hop. I'm gonna be using the Sabro and Pacific Jade as my flavor hops. So that just means I'm gonna add them in the last 10 minutes. But the Pacific Jade is a new hop I'm dealing with, and when you're dealing with a new hop, you need to eat it and taste it. Now, if you've hit pause on the video and eaten a hop along with me, you're about to quickly realize they're quite painful to eat. Getting some good flavors of, you know, that's what kind of tastes, it kind of tastes like it's not a good feeling. Gross. Please tell me someone just ate a hop with me. If you just ate a hop, make sure to leave a comment. I'm really sorry. My mouth really, really hurts. For your mash out, it is at this stage you need your oven rack. Because what you're gonna do is you're gonna lift up your brew in a bag, slip this underneath, and then you can rest it on top. That way you're not testing your biceps. That's how you mash out. So at this stage, what you're left with is your wort. You want to be left with at least 12 liters because when you boil this, you're gonna lose some vapor. You can do one of two things. The first one is take that mash, pour a little bit of boiling water over the top, and what that will do is dissolve any residual sugar in the grain, putting that into the liquid itself. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna top it up. If you're a beginner, just top it up. Now time for the boil, so crank that heat, watch the bubbles come. If you spill anywhere, make sure to clean it up because if you start boiling it, it's gonna stain the top of your stove. And if you're in my case, yeah, fine, you don't say it's gonna kill you. Or brew outside is another option, but yeah, you got a kitchen, why not use it? Right, let's heat this baby up. Just chuck on the lid until it gets to the boil. Now essentially for the boil, we're gonna be using 8 grams of Pride of Ringwood. In the last 10 minutes, I'm gonna put in 10 grams of Pride of Ringwood, 10 grams of that American Sabro, and 10 grams of that delicious Pacific Jade from New Zealand. Oh, it just smells so fantastic. It has quite a, I don't know how to I can't think of, it's like a lolly, but it's not. I really like the smell of this, it's so good. What kind of aroma does Sabro have? So this one's quite acidic, not acidic, citrusy. That's pretty good as well. Actually quite similar in aroma, but the Pacific Jade, a lot more stronger. Pacific Jade, small little nugs, huge in aroma. Sabro, bigger nuggets, but still smells really fantastic. And then this is just what's left of my Pride of Ringwood. I'm just trying to get rid of that. And it's a really resiny hop, but that should go well with the citrusness of the Sabro and Pacific Jade. While you're waiting for this to boil, you may as well get rid of your mash. What I normally do with my spent grain is I'll dig up some dirt in my backyard and actually bury it, and it should just turn into compost. That's all you have to do with it. It's just turn it into compost, you can turn it into dog biscuit, you can feed it your animals. That's all I really know you can do with it. I'm sure there's plenty of other things, but compost is probably the best one, at least for me, in my situation. We are now at the point of boil, so we're gonna add in our Pride, and we're gonna leave them for 60 minutes. Get your hops nice and soaked. Get them nice and immersed, I should say. Cool. Hey Google, set a timer for 50 minutes. Thanks, Googs. Now what's gonna happen is that's gonna sit in here for 50 minutes, and then for another 10 minutes, we're gonna add in our flavor hops. So we're gonna leave that for an hour. Last 10 minutes of that hour, we're gonna add in our aromatics and our flavor hops. Beautiful, see you then. Actually, no, I've got more important stuff to do. I'll tell you what it is. Get yourself some sanitizer and sanitize your fermenter, because if there is a single germ in there, your beer is gonna taste not good. Can't over sanitize. That's my tip for you. Make sure everything's nice and sparkling clean. Take your airlock and just soak it in there. Bing bong, come with me. Now for the last 10 minutes, let's whack in the rest of those hops. Let them soak. And then I'm gonna start adding aroma to the beer. Hey Google, set a timer for 10 minutes.
Sure, 10 minutes.
After 10 minutes, take your hops out, and we're gonna need to wait for this to cool down. So what this is called is a wort chiller. It does exactly what the name implies. It's just gonna chill down my wort, completely optional. Now, if you don't have one of these, keep it covered because you don't want any bacteria getting into your wort. When you're brewing, you're gonna be aiming for things called original gravity. So that's just how much sugar's in the solution. I use a refractometer, but you can also use a hydrometer. They're a little bit cheaper and they're quite easy to use as well. The gravity I was aiming for was 1.051. I have nailed it. Even still, if I was a little bit higher, just add in a bit more water, drop that gravity down a little bit, and it should be exactly what I have. My wort is completely chilled. We're gonna add it to the fermenter, add in our yeast. We're gonna leave it for about 7 days. I like to pitch my wort from height because it's gonna add a lot of oxygen to the wort. Yeast loves oxygen and it's going to eat all of it up. I use about 10 grams of yeast for about 10 litres. The yeast I've decided to go with is Mango Jack's M36. The Liberty Bell yeast I'm hoping will impart some fruity ester into the beer and give it a fantastic rounded flavour. I typically overpitch my beers just because you do get some more flavour in that sense as well. But you give it a little shake and that yeast is going to start eating up all that sugar. Now you just find somewhere nice and dark, hide it away for about 7 days, and then in those 7 days it'll ferment. Now your fermentation's finished and you're getting ready to bottle. The first thing you need to do is figure out the type of bottle you're going to use. There's generally three types of bottles. The ones I like are the swing tops. They're just easy to clean, they're reusable. Plastic bottles are fantastic as well. Otherwise you've got glass bottles with the crown seal. Apparently they're amazing. I've never used them. I think I may eventually move to the crown seals just simply because at first I was paranoid that the tops would pop off. Apparently the bottle will explode before that happens. So that's pretty fantastic to know. Make sure to get yourself a very high quality sanitizer. I use Stella San. There's hundreds of sanitizers out there, but anything the beer touches, make sure you've sterilized it. A great thing for beginners is something called bottle conditioning. So I'm going to be using table sugar or white sugar, whatever you have on hand. I'm going to put about a teaspoon into each bottle, and that's going to carbonate over time because it's going to re-ferment in the bottles itself. Definitely get yourself a spray bottle and make up a solution. That way you can sanitize everything. Before you get packaging, do remove a little bit of that juice at the start because it's going to be a big chunk of sediment. Once you've done that, just give it a smell and a quick taste test and just think about what aromas you can smell. What I'm getting is passion fruit. Interesting. And quite a vibrant fruity kind of flavour from this one. It's quite bitter. Kind of got a greeny, resiny flavour to it. Smells really good though. Once you've had a little taste test and you've loaded up sugar into your container, it's time to start filling. Once you've got a nice filled bottle, cap it off, and here's something I learned too late: label it. 100% label it, otherwise you're going to forget what you have, at least if you make a bunch of beer. Once you finish packaging your beer, I cannot stress this enough, but what you want to do is store it somewhere dark, covered, and warm. Covered just in case they do pop, it's a lot easier to clean up. Dark and warm because sunlight damages your beer, and warm so it does that secondary fermentation. Leave it for about 2 weeks and then a nice, beautiful amber pale ale. Firstly, look how amazing that colour is. Let's start with the smell. Now, I've used a lot of sweet malts here, so the aroma is quite malty. It's a really light aroma and it's quite sweet, so that's going to come from all that crystal malt that I've used. But at the end of the day, it's how it tastes. Wow. It's not too sweet, it's nice and bitter. This may be one of the most balanced beers I've ever made. Overall, I reckon I've made something quite fantastic. If you've made a homebrew beer as well, be proud of it. Be proud of that product that you've made because they're fantastic and you just get to enjoy it at the end of the day. My beer's worked out to be about 6.2% in alcohol. A great way to check is getting yourself a tool like this. So click here and I hope to see you again very shortly. Cheers.